dirty crap work as I am doing the high level negotiating and shaking hands with Bill Clinton. So a perfect example is 2 weeks ago we got to an event and the event team there, like the audiovisual team, hadn't rigged our 20-foot banner. I had guests coming in about half an hour's time, and so there I am up in my high heels rigging a 20-foot banner. Like it is what it is. You have to get it done. You've got to do it, and fake it till you make it. I think that we never really make it. What does making it mean? So that's the ego thing, again, involved. And I think that sometimes when people fake it until they make it, they put on this arrogance and they think that that's going to help them, and it really doesn't, I don't think. So I did wear a fake set of glasses the first year that I was president and CEO because I felt like it made me look older, and I don't need glasses. And you can see lots of pictures in the newspaper with me wearing them, and I tell people all the time.
Tell me a little bit about in dealing with these high-profile individuals. Do you speak to them directly, or is it their agent? Is it their assistant? How do you manage that that cycle, if you will, of I'm trying to get so-and-so to be a guest speaker here in Toronto, but I have to go through 13 different people? How's that work?
It depends. I mean, most of the time people are so protected and, handled and whatever else that you're usually dealing with people's inner circle first. So you're developing relationships with those people, and I never underestimate the power of having a really good relationship with someone's executive assistant or whatever else. I know that I judge people the way that they treat, the receptionist that greets them when they come into my office. Are they dismissive of that person, or are they kind? Are they chatty? Are they talking? So I make sure that I develop those relationships with those key people. They can be the best. I always get the opportunity to speak face-to-face with these individuals, though, because I'm hosting them. And some people have a different style. We hosted Jeb Bush before he was running for Republican nominee, just before, and he wanted to get on the call himself, and he wanted to chat. And so here I am this afternoon having like a conversation about education reform with Jeb Bush. And he was like, no frills, wanted to do the call himself. He traveled with no one. He showed up at the hotel. He was very low key. And so some people's style is just different than others. But
and you adjust accordingly in terms of that.
Absolutely. It's always nice when you get to talk to the individual, but it's not always possible. And sometimes you got to do a real runaround to get to the right person. I look at that as part of the puzzle. So you got to dig. You got to be relentless. You got to know that there's a way to get in touch. There's a way to find the contact. And you got to leverage all your existing relationships.
Is there anybody out there that has served as a mentor for you in your current role as the CEO of the Economic Club of Canada, whether from a negotiating perspective or whatever in terms of skill sets that they have that you would not necessarily duplicate, but you've embraced and you've attempted to pursue?
Absolutely. There's been a lot of people that stand out to me. One of the women was one of the women who hired me to the Economic Club of Canada. So she was the director of operations at the time, and she and the president interviewed me. And excuse me, her name was Laura Dugan. She's now a litigator and she's gone back to Queen's Park now, and she's the chief of staff to Minister Tracy McCharles. She was someone who early on I looked at her and I thought, I love her style. I love how open and honest she is. I love the way that she communicates, and I want to be like her too. And so she was someone who I just respected so much. There's been a lot of people that I just respect, and I take from them the pieces that I think are giving them their success. So another woman, Lisa Lisson, president of FedEx, her and I have had a great relationship. She's been a mentor to me, someone who's very open and honest, shares her personal story, and uses that to fuel everything that she does. And she's got an amazing story for anyone. You should go out and check it out because she's been through a lot and has done everything with some integrity and class. So I think of those people. Also, the person who gave me my start, so the president of the Economic Club of Canada, who hired me as an entry-level person straight out of Ryerson to be an events coordinator. He was definitely someone who saw something in me, who allowed me to take risks and use my mind and my ideas in order to expand the club, and I wouldn't be here without that. So.
One of the questions that I get quite often from young people is, how do I go out and get a mentor?
Yeah. And you know what? That's difficult. There's a lot of great programs that will set you up with mentors, but again, a mentorship relationship has to be authentic. And I was guilty of this too when I was younger in my career, of just setting my mind on someone and wanting that person to be my mentor when we had no real relationship. And so, yeah, and it would end up being useless. It really would. So I would say, in terms of a mentor relationship, don't just look at, oh, I need to, this CEO needs to be my mentor. Who's someone who's a little bit ahead of you, maybe even not that much, but a little bit ahead of you, or looks like they're going in a direction that you want to go, that you have a relationship with, that you have comfort with, that you can be honest, that you can ask real questions, that you can talk about your real fears or the things that you don't get or don't understand. Who's that person? And I think that going after those kinds of relationships, that's the best mentoring relationships that you can find. And mentors come in many different forms and many different ways. So they could be a professor at university. They could be a student that's graduated just a few steps ahead of yours, or it could be someone that you meet at a conference or whatever else. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be so defined, I think.
Let's jump from that into mandate. Economic Club of Canada. Do you work from a strategic plan? Do you work from a collaborative group of ideas and perceptions that you wish to pursue? How did you develop this mandate? You have the Economic Club, it was Toronto, you put it into a national organization, but
yes.
Where's the mandate?
I mean, the mandate's sort of always been there, that we are there to educate and connect Canadians to the most important policy issues of the day. And so we've never really strayed from doing that. A big part of our mandate is to remain completely nonpartisan. So we are not trying to influence the decision. We are neutral and providing the place for all sides to come together and have the conversation. So that is really embedded into what we do. And I think about that all the time when we're making decisions. I can think of difficult choices, like when Rob Ford was running again for mayor, and I had a lot of people saying, well, how dare you let him come speak? This was at the height of all the drama with everything that was going on, but he was holding office and running again with the potential to win. And at that point, he is 100% welcome on the podium. So as much flack as you will get for that, it's part of our mandate is to give those people that are in those positions an opportunity to speak. And so I think that I've had to always come back to that time and time again.
And it's worked well for you?
I think so, yeah, because I'm not willing to stray off of it. And I think that that's important. People come to expect you to deliver a particular mandate. So if you're making choices that aren't always, right on that, then you're not going to be seen as trustworthy, or you're not going to be seen as an organization that has a clear direction. So our direction is clear, it's quite simple, and we follow that. In terms of a strategic plan, absolutely. Each year we build out a strategic plan for that particular event season and year. We also look in 5-year blocks as well in terms of where we want to be going. So that is something that we do that is done in-house with my team. And then we sort of map that out. So we identify the key goals that we're trying to meet for that year, for that next 5-year cycle as well. And then we reevaluate.
Who would you classify as your competition?
It's interesting because there's obviously a lot of organizations that are doing events in Canada. I think of the classics like the Canadian Club or the Empire Club. We're all clamoring in some way for the same speakers. Everyone wants the finance minister for his budget address. So that's competition there. But I think that we're different than any other organization too. The fact that we have the Junior Economic Club as the vehicle in which we take a lot of the resource and a lot of the prosperity of the Economic Club and push back in to that organization is a very different structure. The quick turnaround, a very different structure, and the national platform. So we're the only organization in Canada that you could come to and do a sweep of the nation with one organization. You'd be dealing with the same person and the same team right across the country. No one else can offer that right now.
Big issue. External stakeholder. Media. How do you handle that?
I mean, a lot of the times the media is after our guest, not us. So not us for comment, they're after our guests for comment. So we have a really respectable relationship with the media. We know what they are looking for. They know what we have, and we try to work out something that's respectable. I am very much about having an open and transparent conversation in the room as well. Media is always welcome to our events. We encourage them to come out to our events, and we want that dialogue to exist. So I treat them with respect. In terms of, not being prepared sometimes when a certain question's asked, that can happen. I think it's really important that before you say anything, you think before you say. And I've run into situations where I've said silly things before, just because I'm on the fly and I'm probably being very honest, but maybe it wasn't the most strategic thing.
How would you advise people who have to engage with the media? I mean, your particular organization, they would be after your client.
Right.
More so.
Yes.
But you can fall in there sometimes if the client is not available.
Yeah.
But if you were advising others in terms of how best to deal with the media, and we also have another media, the social media.
Yeah, absolutely. The social media is a lot harder because anybody has a voice. People can be anonymous behind that voice, and anybody can capture anything at any time. That's a whole nother beast in and of itself. But regular media, I would say, get media training. Go out and seek out professional training to deal with the media, because I think that if you don't have that, you can easily get into situations where you might not be representing yourself in the best way possible. And again, it comes down to being authentic and honest, but it also comes down to understanding how to manage a brand, or if you're representing a particular bank, you have to be very careful about the things that you can disclose or not disclose. So I would say invest in educating yourself is probably the best step.
What about the social media?
That's a tough one, because I just, personally, I find it so nasty. So much of it, it's like no one goes on to social media to say something good. It's all the negative and the naysayers, and it's really frustrating. Or it's just useless. Like people are just going on and retweeting things and circulating things around that aren't really doing anything other than just kind of pushing out information. So I would say that with social media, don't take everything to heart, I would say first. I think a lot of people take a lot of the social media stuff very personally. And I would also say, use your critical mind. So if you're looking at a particular source of something or a story on something, look for other sources where that story exists and it's true. I think that we need to really be thinking critically in today's day and age, and not just taking one thing for face value and then making it our truth. Challenge the ideas that you're seeing that are presented to you, and do your due diligence to make sure that you see multiple sources that are approved that say the same thing before making an opinion or before promoting that idea. So don't just retweet something because you think it's great and funny when it's not truth. I think that there needs to be some integrity put into that as well.
Has the Economic Club of Canada been hit under social media?
Yeah, so again, I come back to this Rob Ford day when Rob Ford and I got stuck in an elevator for 45 minutes with no phone access, and we had about 100 members of the media out at that event. It was really at the height of the downfall of Mayor Ford at the time. And I got attacked, like really, really viciously attacked. For people were saying that I was lying for him, that I was covering up, making false stories about being in the elevator with him because of vice versa. People were writing me hateful notes and letters and all of those kinds of things. That's happened before. For the most part, we do pretty well, but there's always going to be those little things where someone gets a little bit nasty, and it is what it is. I would put out a blanket response, to those things with just what the truth was, and then I walk away from it. And that's it. So,
but you're quite correct. I mean, when you look at the social media, rarely do you see a positive edge first.
You really rarely do.
There's the odd example that Oprah did a wonderful thing. Thank you very much. But the vast majority, it is negative in tone, negative in substance, and negative on the person.
Absolutely. And that's why I would say to our younger generation, I challenge you to use social media for positive. Because if we start doing it, we can create a trend. But right now, the trend is very much the opposite. And so, you know, when's the last time you tweeted something positive, David? Or when's the last time you went on and posted something positive? Or had an amazing experience at a restaurant or an organization and wrote a positive review, took the time to do that. I think that if we continue to do those things, there can be some more balance. So I just encourage people to do that.
Just a response to your question, I've tweeted a lot of positive things and never gets picked up.
Well, I'm going to retweet the next positive thing that you put on. We're starting this movement slow over here, but we'll get to it.
Tell me now, 3 mistakes that you've made over your career that you've learned from.
Okay, first one would be taking a shortcut and thinking that that's a good idea. So I'll give you an example. When I was first starting to build in some of the markets that we weren't really operating in, so like a Vancouver out west, and it was long flights and expensive and all that, I thought, oh, maybe I should just partner with some other organizations that already are well established, and that way, you know, I cut all of this, you know, slow build process, and I can just get right in there and we can start doing things. So, you know, naive in that sense of thinking that that's the best way to do things, because you can't control what you're doing when you're with somebody else, and not all partnerships work out and all of that kind of stuff. So I know now that if it seems like the easier way to skip a whole lot of hard work, it's probably not the best idea. So that's something that I've learned.
So shortcuts are really not the answer in terms of achieving the overall objective of an organization.
Exactly.
For an organization.
Yeah, I really I believe that to be true. It's been true in my experience. Yeah. The next one would be to wait on it. Wait on that decision. Wait on that response. Wait on that reaction. Sit on it for a day or two. I'm someone who's really quick. I don't like to wait. It's all part of my personality, you know, that quick, blunt, to the point. So sometimes if I'm presented with a particular opportunity or there's a particular challenge, I instantly react, instantly respond, and then realize, oh my gosh, that was the stupidest thing, or there's so many other ways that we could have gone about doing that, or that was the wrong decision. So I've started to, and my team always tells me, Rhiannon, wait on it. Wait on it for a little bit, and then let's come. And always, almost 100%, the decision is different when I wait on it than if I would have made it immediately.
Now, when you say wait on it, are you just becoming more patient?
Yes.
You're waiting 24 hours, 48 hours, a weekend?
And it depends on the situation. Is it a heated thing where there's a little bit of emotion involved? Definitely need to cool down. Let the emotion be out of it before you make the decision. Is it something that requires a little bit more work? Do we need a little bit more research? Do we need to get a couple more opinions before we go ahead and do that? So it depends on what it is in terms of wait on it, but never instantly respond. And I was that person. I would be, oh, we're finally getting this deal. They've come back. They said, let's just do it. No, like it has to, you gotta be a little more patient and do your due diligence.
I find, for instance, in the sales cycle today, 2016 versus 2005, is much, much, much longer. I mean, years ago you would have individuals who would respond to you within a very reasonable period of time.
Yes.
But most organizations, they have a procurement division, they have a VP that they have to go through. It may go up to the CEO, it may not. But there's a lot more time involved before decisions are made. Do you encounter that?
Yes and no. Again, my business is very different and my model is different. People will lose the opportunity if they don't respond quickly, because if I'm planning something within 2 weeks and I'm giving someone an opportunity and they don't jump on it, they're going to lose. So I'm lucky in that sense that I do get a lot of quick turnaround, and I've learned how to sort of circumvent some of the long protocol that's in place. Usually that requires going directly to the top and asking, you know, the CEO or the president, and then trickle down. They can make that happen very quickly, as opposed to going from the bottom and working your way up.
So that's the second lesson you've learned. Be a little bit more patient. What's the third one?
The third lesson I've learned, I would say, is to be honest and true to myself at all times. And I think that there's so many opportunities to get involved with things that seem great, or there's a great benefit of some sort, or there's great profile to that, or there's lots of money to be made to that. But I think that it has to go back to my internal compass and into my internal mandate of the things that I am trying to accomplish and why I'm trying to accomplish them. So I think that that's probably the third one and most important.
Anybody out there that you've seen over the years that you would classify as a good negotiator?
So our former president of Ryerson, Sheldon Levy, I would say was one of the most skilled negotiators I have ever watched. And
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think Sheldon is a really interesting person because he has a vision and an idea of what he wants to do. And he's usually working, with multiple stakeholders and a bureaucracy and everything else. Somehow he still manages to execute on that idea. And he does so by inviting everyone else in such a way that they feel as though it's theirs as well. And so he was really good about connecting across lines and bringing people together, and very big and bold ideas. So not taking the smaller steps, but just the big, huge, he really rebuilt this city in a lot of ways. If you look at Ryerson and the legacy under him, and he was a city builder and an innovator and an entrepreneur within a bureaucracy of a university. So really interesting, and I, luckily because of my position on the board and my position, being so involved back with the school, I got to watch that firsthand. So he is somebody for sure that I would classify.
And what's his most outstanding quality?
Probably,
I know he has many.
Yeah. I would say probably his ability to be straight and open and honest. He's somebody who will tell you straight up front exactly what he's looking for, why, and what he's trying to do. It's not hidden within a bunch of papers or a bunch of fancy stuff all around it. He's very to the point, and he knows exactly who he needs to bring around in order to make it happen, and he goes straight for it. So I think that's a really interesting...
Does he frame these objectives well?
I think he really does, although he's working for the government now. And I did run into him most recently, and I said, "How are you doing?" And he said, "Terrible." So, that's a whole nother beast. You can't, that's an interesting place for a person like him. And he could do a lot of good, but that's a tough place to be for someone who is such an innovator and who likes to move quickly.
Now, do you have a set of ground rules that you adhere to when you're in a negotiations?
I think it's a lot of the same of what I said. It's a mutual respect. It's identifying off the top, not only do I want to work with this person, but am I going to be able to provide this person with something of value as well? Sometimes I realize very quickly that what I've got to offer isn't right for that person. And I think that the integrity piece is being able to walk away from that, or to be able to say to that, you know what? I actually don't think I'm going to be able to deliver what you are looking for, and we can agree to disagree, or we can step away from it at this moment. Maybe there's going to be an opportunity to come back, but right now this isn't going to work, or I'm not able to meet those requirements, rather than taking on the role or the contract and then letting that happen anyways. So I would say that that is a principle that I hold strong.
Very good, very good. I guess one of the final questions I have for you is, what would you advise a young graduate, say from Ryerson University, who's going to be entering the work world, first job, may have a job, want to get a different type of job? What sort of advice would you give these young people?
So I think the biggest advice is that don't expect everything right away. And I say that because when I got my first job offer out of school, it was an exciting organization, but I was doing the grunt, bare bottom bones of the work.
Tell the audience what that was.
Yeah.
Because I think this is quite important.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, answering phone calls. It was data entry work. It was, literally slugging around banners and Bristol boards and things and setting them all up, and it was making sure that the VIP room had tea in it and coffee, and it was all those kinds of things, and I was thought of myself as quite a smart and educated young person. And, you can easily get disgruntled. Well, I don't know, like I know more than this, or why am I doing that? But I decided to take the attitude that I was going to do the best darn job. So if I was going to answer phones, I was going to be the best person, the friendliest person you've ever talked to answering the phones that there was. And, if someone asked me to tidy up the office and I thought, you know what, this office needs more than just a tidy up, then I would come in on the weekend and I would literally reorganize everything so that on Monday morning when everyone walked in, they would say, this feels completely different. And wow, you've implemented this new filing system, or you did whatever. I just tried to go above and beyond with everything. And I took that attitude, and as I got better tasks or bigger tasks or more exciting tasks, I continued to do that, and I worked my way up quite quickly with that attitude. And I still have this attitude. And if you ask any of my team, will Rhiannon, if somebody barfed on the floor at the event, not that I should be doing it, but I will. I'll be the first to go run behind and try and get something.
So that's pretty good advice.
Yeah.
That's pretty good advice.
Yeah, just do it. Do the work. Roll up your sleeves. Because even when you are the president, even when you are the entrepreneur, even when you are, the big shot, you still have to do that stuff. You really do. It's the right way to build morale for your team. So get used to it now, because you'll be a better leader in the future if you have that attitude.
I think we now know why you've been so successful.
Well, thank you, David.
Look, on behalf of the Ted Rogers School of Management, the faculty and the students at Ted Rogers, I want to express our sincere appreciation for joining us today.
Thank you.
Giving us your insights on negotiations, advocacy, and of course, running a very successful operation as the President and CEO of the Economic Club of Canada. Continued success, and thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.